Hi, everybody. I'm Erin Beekle-Wazorek from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and I am so excited to be talking today with our Executive Director, Brandon Wales.
Nope, thanks, Erin. Really happy to be here.
Hey, so anything new going on in CISA?
Yeah, it was a big day for CISA, and frankly, it's a big day for cybersecurity. So today we officially published in the Federal Register the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking that was required under the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act. This act was passed way back in 2022, and we've been working over the last 2 years to create a proposed rule that will really drive risk reduction across the critical infrastructure community by requiring reporting from critical infrastructure entities of cyber incidents and ransomware payments.
That sounds complex.
It was complex, and I think that is one of the reasons why we've spent the last 2 years engaging with our partners, both across the federal government, but also out there in the community from our stakeholders in industry. We issued a request for information back in September 2022, where we got written comments from our stakeholders. We then held listening sessions, 10 of them across the country. We held an additional 16 plus across the critical infrastructure community virtually. So we gathered a lot of feedback, and we used all of that information, all of their perspectives, to help us shape the proposed rule that we published today.
So I love the collaboration because, as you know, at CISA, we love collaboration.
We were purpose-built for it.
We're a partnership agency. But I think let's kind of go back and talk a little bit about what this does and why it's important. You talked about the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act. What does that mean? What does it get us, and why now?
Yeah, so this is essential because our ability to warn the community of what is happening on on U.S. cyber critical infrastructure, our ability to understand how the adversary is targeting us is based on our ability to see it, to be told about it. A lot of those attacks that are happening that are impacting critical infrastructure, that are impacting small and medium-sized businesses, that are impacting state and local government agencies, we don't get enough of that information today. And that is one of the reasons why we worked with Congress to pass CIRCIA back in 2022 and to mandate that reporting to come into CISA. Not so we can hold people accountable, so that we can use that information for the benefit of the overall cybersecurity ecosystem, so that we can warn companies about what is happening so that they can protect themselves, so that we can render assistance more quickly, so that we can spot adversary campaigns faster. That is really why it's so important and why it's so important right now. So I want to kind of dig in a little bit on that because there are 16 critical infrastructure sectors, right? So if there's a threat to the healthcare sector, should they still, how does CISA use that information, or do other sectors find out about it? So I think our concern is today not enough. But we can see, particularly from the scourge of ransomware attacks that have hit this country over the past several years, that a ransomware adversary will regularly target a hospital one day and then a manufacturing entity the next day, and then a local government agency the following day. And they'll often use very similar tactics. They will use common vulnerabilities that they're targeting. And the sooner we understand what those are, the faster we can get information out so that everyone can raise their defenses against it. Our goal is that no attack should be successful more than once, because as soon as that happens, the information is shared, we get it out to the community, and everyone benefits from it.
And that's the full community, because this is kind of that, focal point that if we see something in one sector, we can kind of spot it.
And we want to get it out as broadly as possible. We issue the vast majority of our alerts and our advisories publicly so that everyone benefits from the information and from the insights we have. But that is not just information that's kept within the four walls of the government. That is often information that is based on things that we receive from industry. It's based upon our own capabilities, and they are a key part of it. The private sector helps enable this to happen.
I think that looks like an amazing future, sort of, as this evolves. So getting back to the proposed rule, who has to report?
Yeah, so I would argue that this is probably the most essential question in the proposed rule is who are these covered entities? Who is going to be required to report under CIRCIA? And we spend a long time in the proposed rule, in the NPRM, laying out exactly the conditions under which you are an entity so that any company can look at this regulation and know whether they are covered. But importantly, this is a proposed rule. We've laid out our perspective. It's based upon our best understanding of what will enable us to be successful. It is based in part on the feedback we received during the consultation periods we had with industry and with government.
So this wasn't really developed in a vacuum.
It's not developed in a vacuum. It is developed in collaboration across the community, but it is ultimately CISA's perspective based upon our best judgment about what we think who needs to be covered. We lay out the rationale, we lay out alternatives that we considered, but this is a proposed rule. So there is now an opportunity for the next 60 days for the private sector, for interested parties, for any stakeholder who wants to provide comment that we will have to consider as we develop the final rule. This is your chance to help shape what that looks like. This is your chance to help provide your perspective so that we use that in crafting what will ultimately be the rule that every company is required to adhere to.
So I'm going to give you a little quiz on your regulatory process knowledge. So after the NPRM, it's just a done deal, right?
No, I mean, we have, the NPRM is, as I mentioned, a proposed rule. Mm-hmm. People will have 60 days to provide their feedback into it. At the end of that 60 days, CISA will gather all of the comments we received, need to be submitted as part of the Federal Register, through the Federal Register. We have our obligation to respond to those comments. And again, there will be similar themes that probably will cut across multiple different stakeholders' feedback, and it's our responsibility to kind of bring those all together to try to make sense of them, then to figure out how we consider them, and ultimately make the decisions that will shape the final rule. As soon as we finish that, we will issue a final rule through the Federal Register. We'll do it as soon as we can, but it needs to be done within 18 months to comply with the statutory requirements of the CIRCIA legislation. And then shortly after the final rule is proposed, at that point it goes into effect. And we'll be really transparent, and we'll probably produce more videos like this at the time to lay out to the entire community what their obligations are, and that now it's the time that you'll have to start reporting into the government when you suffer a cyber incident or when you make a ransom payment. And then we will start using that information day one to advance the mission.
So 18 months.
The longest 18 months, correct.
The longest 18 months. However, the sort of negative news is that we don't really see attacks or ransomware sort of attacks slowing down in those 18 months, right? So what does an organization do if they have an incident today? Yeah,
so the threat environment, as you note, is more aggressive than I've seen in my entire career. And no one should be waiting for CIRCIA's final rule to be issued before they start reporting into the government. We need more of these reports today. And so if you suffer a cyber incident, we want to help you, and we need that information so we can help other companies. Because you will want other companies to report their cyber incidents because you're going to benefit from it tomorrow. And you need to do that today. And so you can report to CISA. We make it very easy on our website at cisa.gov/report.
That does sound easy.
It is easy. If you have a contact in the field with the FBI, continue to work through them as well, because we really treat this as an entire government that we're there to support you. But we need the information in. Ultimately, get it in. Until it is required to be submitted under CIRCIA, we really ask for it to be voluntarily submitted, because we're all benefiting from this information. No matter how much or how little we get, we're going to use every bit of it.
It's sort of good cyber citizenship in a sense, right? It is a public good when you report.
It is absolutely a public good, and I know it's hard for a lot of companies because in that moment they've just suffered an attack, and it is a really trying moment for most companies or agencies when they've been hit. But they should know that the government in this case is really here to help. We at CISA are not an agency that looks to hold people accountable. We're not here to enforce any rules against them. We are really here to provide assistance and, most importantly, to act as a conduit back to the rest of the community, to all of the other critical infrastructure stakeholders, to all of the other small and medium-sized businesses, to all of the other government agencies. If you get that information into us, it is our obligation to kind of get the key points of that out so other people can protect themselves. And it is absolutely part of a good cyber citizenship to have that culture of sharing, because that is the way in which we make this entire ecosystem more secure.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, and I want to kind of go back to it. So if somebody reports into CISA, do we tell everybody?
No, I mean, we have a lot of protections around the information that's submitted to us. So, for example, information that's submitted today under several of the authorities that we have, and certainly information that is submitted under CIRCIA in the future, that information cannot be used, for example, in regulatory enforcement purposes. That was a specific protection that Congress built into the CIRCIA legislation. What we want to do is we want to get the key parts of that report. We're not looking to name and shame victims. That is not what we are here for. We want to get the important technical details of what happened, how it happened, and what can be done to stop it. We need to get that information out to a broader audience. That's the kind of information that we're going to be pushing broadly. We do it very publicly, very transparently through our cybersecurity advisories and alerts. And that's what we're going to do both before CIRCIA is fully implemented and after.
So even once CIRCIA is implemented, you recommend that, as we worked through covered entity definitions and things like that, that really we all benefit when we report whether we're covered or not.
Absolutely. I mean, even after CIRCIA, and we made decisions in there about where we wanted to draw the line and where we were going to require reporting. But ultimately, the more information we have on what is happening on U.S. critical infrastructure, about how they're being attacked, the more information we get in, the stronger we can make the ecosystem, the more information we can get out. And so we still strongly encourage broad reporting on cyber incidents into the government, even if you're not required to do so.
I love this. So Brandon, it sounds like great progress, and huge congratulations to the CISA team, and a big thanks to all of the partners and all the organizations who did weigh in when we did those listening tours. Collaboration is the key, and communication is even more important. And so I see great things.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was a big step. We have more work to do, but the team across CISA, across the interagency, all the folks who participated and provided us comments to date, and the ones that are going to do so over the next 60 days, a huge thank you to everyone who participated in this process and who will continue to participate in the process. We couldn't have done it alone, nor should we, and thank you for the partnership.
All right, keep reporting.